Just waiting for the podcast to start.
Why?
I don't know, because I thought we're doing a podcast, right?
Also,
No.
was on tape.
Not anymore.
No.
You're rebuking me and walking off.
Matthew 18!
Matthew 18!
I know. Are you going to take your shirt off and swallow a sword?
It's not the first time I've been. Welcome to The Gathering Greenhouse, a podcast to help us grow together.
What up?
We got some great questions today, and we're going to find out the answers to them.
Like,
That's what
why
we do
does
on the
John
podcast.
think he's a rapper?
Yo.
He doesn't think, he knows.
Is it just like you put your hat on backwards and you start...
Wait, do you have to have
I'm already in a get off my lawn kind of mood.
Welcome to the greenhouse.
But when are you not in that kind of mood?
Like probably 2 days a week.
2 days a week from like 5 a.m. to 8:15 a.m.
I said 5:15.
As you get old, you have to choose: are you going to fight it or are you going to embrace it? And I made a choice to embrace it. So
That was the wrong choice.
I'm get off my lawn.
So I thought we'd do a little game this morning. Don't look at my phone here to cheat.
I can read that if I wanted to.
That's what you say. So since we are talking about can we trust the Bible, I thought this was the perfect opportunity to see if we can tell the difference between something that is the Bible and not the Bible.
I love these games.
Oh, great.
I think that they're pretty easy because, I want you guys to be successful in this, especially on the podcast.
So I just need to ask a clarifying question.
Yeah.
When we're talking about whether or not it is in the Bible, are we saying like the substance of this is not in the Bible, or is like the wording is tweaked a little bit so it doesn't count?
Good question.
Yeah,
Good question.
it matters.
Because I would say some of them, yes, you have to have the correct wording. So you have to listen to the wording.
Is it in Greek?
No, it's not in Greek.
Is it in
it's
Hebrew?
originally in Greek and Hebrew, but
Well, this is
Never
my
mind.
point. Is
Stop
so
him.
like we're talking about the English translation.
all of you watching, remember, this is a game and this is for fun.
I just want to know the rules.
Okay.
And how can I answer a question if I don't understand where's the question coming from?
I get prepared you
Steve.
as much as I possibly can.
think
But
Steve's
remember,
asking a
this is for fun and this is a game. Okay.
Playing the game is not what's fun.
Winning the game is
Winning
what's
the
fun.
game is what's
I am
fun.
in complete agreement with you. But
Speaking of
sometimes
the game,
you just have to say,
you lose.
I am here to have fun.
Well, then make sure it's a fun game.
It's attitude sometimes, is it not? Sometimes you just
Yes.
have to say, I'm going to have a good attitude. We're going to go into it that way. Okay, this is way too much discussion involved in how the game's going to
So
work.
what are we doing again?
So what we're going to do is I'm going to read a passage from the Bible, and it may be either true or false. Okay, so
we have to guess.
The passage is true or false that it's from the Bible.
well, if it's from the Bible, it's going to be true. But if it's not,
So
Okay.
So we're guessing yes
So
or no. It's
You're
from the
guessing
Bible.
yes or no. Is it from the Bible?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. It's just a yes or no, but essentially you're saying right.
Are these just made up if they're not from the Bible, or are they from other sources that are similar to the Bible?
Yes.
This is gonna be great.
I would say it could be both. I think they're easy. I would do a good job on this, and I think that you know.
I would do a good job as I have the list
I
in
think
front
you
of
know
me.
the Bible. Your brain works better for these kind of things than me. So I think you'll both do just fine.
All right.
Okay. But remember, it is a game. Okay, the first one.
Well, who are we competing against?
You both of you. If Matt wants to
I
play
think
too, he
if
can
you're
play.
gonna- you need to-
I know the answers, so I don't know how I can
You
play.
need to restart this game and say in the beginning.
in the
not first
beginning.
one.
In the beginning.
There you go.
That's from the
that's from the
Bible.
Bible.
That's from the Bible.
You got that one.
Yeah, we got
Ding.
that
Okay,
one.
that's not in there. Okay. Cleanliness is next to godliness.
That's not
Not
in the Bible.
I see. I told you would be.
Come on.
But it is one that it gets quoted quite a bit. That as it being in the Bible, people say that, and
I
it's
think
not a
only
true
in,
saying.
only in certain parts of the country.
What parts of the country would
The
you say?
dirty ones.
The dirty parts of the country? What are the dirty parts of the country,
I was gonna
David?
say,
Arkansas.
Steve is married
Arkansas
to
just got called out.
Yeah,
cleaner?
if you guys have internet and you can watch the podcast now.
Yeah. She's cleaning right now over
So you're married to a cleaner, so you might hear that more than the rest of us.
We rode together. She's over at cleaning over there. This is her first time cleaning, so she better do a good job. She always does a good job. She's a great cleaner, but cleanliness is not next to godliness, but
it's still
That's a good
important.
thing.
it's still important. Yeah,
important.
it's still
Yeah.
important. It's not in the Bible though.
What is
so quit
what is
quoting
next to
that from the Bible.
godliness?
What? I don't know.
Be
What?
careful,
What?
Steve.
Did you
Well,
say
no, I'm
there's?
just-
Are you
I'm
saying
wondering.
there's another quote that is actually
No, I
true?
don't know. I'm just saying, we all
holiness is next to godliness. I don't know.
All right.
Righteousness,
All right.
sanctification. I don't know. There's a lot of words we could use
I'm
there.
just saying, if it's not cleanliness, I mean, is it something else? I don't know.
Justification. No, I wouldn't say that one, but that's more of a process.
All right.
Okay. Anyway, here's the next one. You guys I can tell you're loving this here, so I don't have to. Money is a root of all evil.
That is incorrect.
That is close, but it's no.
So technically, that is in the Bible.
Yeah.
Technically, that is in the Bible.
But it's missing
It's
a
the
word.
love
Well, but
of
those
money.
those words are at the beginning, and so that exact phrase is in the
All
Bible.
right, let's hear it then. What is the exact phrase?
So the love of money is the root of all evil.
Okay, so you're close. John, you want a shot at it?
I thought it was the love of money is the root of evil.
All right,
There's a
well-
very important word.
Okay, well,
in here.
why don't you tell us what it is?
Okay. It is for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Not all evil,
That's
all kinds.
just one translation.
Yeah.
Matt, look it up.
There are English translations
Look it
that
up.
say exactly
The love
what
of
I
money.
just
Look-
said.
Sure.
All right.
Which translation
This
is that?
see, this
I
is
prefer this one.
this is why I ask all the questions at the beginning.
Well, you are
wait,
a
wait.
pastor, so
Is that
you
the
probably
King
wouldn't get
James?
deep into this. I like the all kinds
That's the one
because
that
it's
counts.
not all evil. Not all evil is linked to money.
All right.
There's other evils that exist out there.
It's not linked to money. It's linked to the love of money.
Sure. Yes, that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love me some money.
David's getting fired up here. Okay.
Steve's getting fired.
I'm getting. Good luck with that. Okay. God helps those who help themselves. Is it in the Bible?
No.
Nope.
No.
Okay.
Actually,
Do you have
I
a
can't
comment?
think of-
Do you have a comment on
No,
this one?
it's just a stupid expression.
I can't think of anything more antithetical to the gospel than
it's
that
just
statement.
that's right. Yeah.
Do you want to call it any churches here on this one?
I don't know of any that are out
In
there saying
Arkansas?
that. Maybe in Arkansas.
I can think of a couple. I'm not going to say
That's a
it
lot of
on.
words.
I'm not going to say it on the podcast.
Joel Osteen.
Okay.
It's the false gospel of good enough,
Yes,
right?
I agree.
Just you
It's-
just keep trying harder. Keep trying harder.
God wants to richly bless you. Yes.
Hey, if you really want to know God, you got to first know yourself.
So
I've
would
heard
a
that one
church
before.
would a church that uses that God helps those who help themselves also use money as a root of all evil?
Yeah, but they
know
would
a
say, so give it to
So
me.
give it to me.
If your money's causing you to sin, you better trust it to me. I won't sin with your money.
Because I'm going to give it right to the person who's going to sell me the airplane.
Okay. Here's the next one.
Okay, kind of.
No evil things ever happen on private jets, ever. Ever.
Okay, next one. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
That is in the Bible.
I would say substantially that's in the Bible, yeah.
Okay. Do you want to give a shot at where?
Luke
Yep. Yes. Another one too.
16.
No. It's okay if you don't.
Matthew, Mark,
I could. Yeah.
Luke,
Yep. So it says.
but not John.
So it's often referenced as a golden rule, which exists in a lot of places, but it has biblical foundation in there, right? Matthew 7:12 and Luke 6:31.
6:31, not Luke 16.
Yeah.
That's close.
I mean, getting the book of the Bible is good enough for most. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because originally there weren't chapters and verses.
Thank you.
I'm actually
Thank you,
just-
David. I've been meaning to say that for a while.
That's my excuse for not being able to remember chapters and verses anymore. As the memory fades, you got to come up with really good reasons.
But isn't there a little bit of like a pride thing when people who love memorizing the Bible like spout out stuff and they try to like ask a pastor where it is and they're like, oh, what seminary did you go to? You know,
So
if you can't
actually
reference verse by verse, you're like, that's kind of not the point.
I was actually at an ordination council
Yeah.
like many years ago, like probably maybe 20 years ago.
Okay. What type of church?
Baptist.
Okay.
Baptist,
Yeah.
right. So, I don't know, like ordination council, a lot
So
of people don't
multiple
know.
pastors from that church, or was it
No.
more
So the
consortium kind of thing?
So this is General Association
Yeah.
of Regular Baptist
I've
Churches.
been to a couple of those.
And so you get a whole big group of pastors
Yeah.
from all over the area come in,
Yeah.
and they just pepper the candidate with questions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And there was this one pastor there who he'd ask a question, and the guy who was giving the answers would give the answer. And this guy was a really good thinker. The guy who was getting ordained was a really good thinker. He really had a good grasp on the big picture of the Bible. And he would often like quote from scripture and whatnot, but not give chapter and verse. Just like, Jesus said this, and everybody knows Jesus said that. Nobody's arguing it. And this one guy would be like, I want to hear chapter and verse. I want to hear chapter and verse. Everything. It's like he wanted him to proof text everything, and you could just see the guy getting frustrated.
It's reason they wrote the Bible down for us.
Well,
like
I
you have to memorize the whole thing.
I would rather have Christians know the content and know the message
How
and
to
know the
apply it
meaning,
to
how
your
to
life,
apply
maybe?
it, than know the references than the other way around.
Correct.
Like versus
Yeah.
just somebody running out on stage just yelling a random scripture reference without knowing what it means.
When you get so obsessed with chapter and verse, that's when you start to take verses out of context and use them for your own agenda. Yeah.
Those two things generally go hand in hand.
Matthew 18.
Moving on.
Moving on. Okay.
Look it up.
Who's winning right now?
Ooh,
I think we're
you're
all
tied. You got
losing.
them all right. Okay. This one is pride comes before the fall. Is it in the Bible?
It's actually cometh.
actually pride cometh before destruction and a haughty spirit before the fall.
I'm gonna say it is.
Very
That
good,
is from the
very
Bible.
good.
That's
but
King James for you.
that's,
But it's not.
That is the King James version.
Okay, so I have a little slightly different
God's
one. But,
version.
That's because you don't use the authorized version.
Okay. But I
611.
like the haughty because it's actually in here. It's one of my favorite translations is when in the creation story when they talk about the animals scurrying. That's a great translation. Okay. This one says, Proverbs 16:18, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. So
Did we get it right or
So is
wrong?
it
you
from
got it
the-
right. Yeah, you got it right. You said yes, it is in the Bible. So good job.
Yeah.
Okay, last one here. Okay. The Lord works in mysterious ways. Is it in the Bible?
That quote.
So this,
no.
yeah, right, exactly.
But often we talk about the mystery.
I mean, if you read some of the Psalms, they essentially say the same thing, like who can know the mind of the Lord, and those types of expressions are very much in Scripture. I don't think that exact wording is.
I agree. With that.
Very good job. This one was actually the most difficult question on here because you're right. The phrase is not found in the Bible, but it reflects the sentiment of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Right. So,
I mean, that's this Sunday sermon, isn't it? Why do bad things happen to good people? Because the Lord works in mysterious ways.
yeah. Well, so I don't really love the mysterious things side of it, but God does things not the way we think they should be
Paul
done.
used that word repeatedly in his letters. He talked about God's mystery.
Yeah.
So I think we can use it.
We can use it.
Yeah.
We can use it.
I just every time I hear the word mystery, I think of Scooby Doo,
yeah, me too. So, Okay.
Mystery Machine.
I
Mysteries.
wasn't allowed to watch
like
that.
fake.
Scooby-Doo.
I think of like fake things or
Where
like
are
made
you?
up things.
Scooby-Doo's not fake.
What are you talking
very
about?
real.
It's super real.
Okay. So shall we get into some questions about the sermon here?
You don't have any more
We
of
shall.
your game?
No, it was just 6 questions
All right,
there.
so what do we get for winning?
Basically you get a pat on the back. Good job. And then we get to move on to some questions about the sermon.
All right.
We've all been waiting for this here.
All right, questions about the sermon.
Sermon questions. Okay, does the gathering believe the Bible is inerrant? And then follow-up question, what does inerrant mean?
That's actually there's something really funny about the phrase "does the gathering believe?"
Yeah, I know.
Because
Should we believe? Does the Bible teach?
Is it a singular?
But I think it's a good way of
funny.
phrasing
That's
it
funny.
because we're speaking exactly what truth means for the gathering when we're talking about
Yeah.
is the Bible true? So I like it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of clarification.
Yeah.
That, when we talk about what we believe as a church, that's not a gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Right? We're not saying if you don't believe this, you can't be here. In fact, we'd say the exact opposite.
You should be here.
If you don't believe like we believe, we want you.
Yeah.
We want you here so we can convince you to agree with
Yeah,
us.
'cause we're going to talk about it. So, the quick and easy answer is yes. We believe that the Bible is inerrant.
So what is inerrant?
What is inerrant? So, inerrant means without error.
Yeah.
Right? Now, for some people, this is a problematic expression because some people would say, well, there's, errors like this word is different or whatever. And so it can't mean, or whatever. Or they say, there's points in the Bible that talk about the four corners of the earth. So that's an error because the earth doesn't have four corners, even though John is a flat earther.
Kate asked me the other day, when are the dragons coming? And like he heard, I don't know, the Vista talked about something with Revelation, and he just wanted to see a dragon. So he was hoping that was going to come soon.
When are the dragons coming?
I said, it's a
season just
metaphor.
started,
It's
so.
metaphorical. It's not, there's not actually going to be.
What do you mean? It's not metaphorical.
That there's going to be dragons appearing?
Dragons, yes.
I mean, that would be pretty
all right.
cool.
So inerrancy. So when we talk about inerrancy, what we're essentially saying is that the Bible, as originally written, was without error in everything that it taught. Right. So when it says that there are four corners of the earth, it's not actually teaching that there are four corners of the earth. That's poetry.
Like flat earth.
No, it's not teaching flat earth.
No, I'm saying that's what someone might say.
But it's poetry,
Yeah.
and it's talking about the ends of the earth, which again, that's an expression everybody uses.
Yeah.
That really, we talk about the sun rising and the sun setting, and even though that's scientifically inaccurate, so it is in error. Everyone in the world
common
who
phrase.
understands English understands what I mean by that when I say the sun rises and the sun sets. So the Bible, in its original writings, is without error in everything that it teaches. And then it's worth just pointing out, we don't have to spend a ton of time here, that we have 100% confidence that the writings that we have today are the writings that were written originally, and we can have more certainty about that than any other document in antiquity in the history of the world.
Yeah, because we have copies dating back to when people would have still been alive who had, known the accounts of what was going on.
So there are older copies that are closer to the original writing than any other documents in antiquity, and there are more copies.
We can look at from one to other, see how it was carried throughout time.
Yes. And the copies that we have are more accurate and aligned than any. And when we talk about antiquity, we're talking about like Homer with the Iliad and the Odyssey. We're talking about the writings of Herodotus and some of these other historians that we rely on and we believe.
Yeah.
So we can also believe the Bible.
Yep. And I want to give one point because I've heard this several times in my ministry. Is it, how like, if you keep translating the Bible, how do you know you have the accurate one? Well, each translation goes back to the original Greek and Hebrew. So you start at the base versus you're not going from English translation to English translation.
And if I can just poke the bear a little bit, that's mostly true.
Yeah.
But not 100% true because like the King James version is not based on as old or as reliable.
Right.
Because we didn't have them.
Because we didn't have them.
It was written in 1611.
Right. Yeah. Good point. Yes.
But it's still very, very accurate.
Yeah. Because you can go back today and you can still do you could do the same check that any translation would have done. It all exists.
And I'm only bringing that up because some people make an idol out of the King James version, and that's not good.
It's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I already quoted it once today, though, so.
So
you did.
One time, I did Awana growing up, and some churches do Awana exclusively in King James. Yeah. And so there was one night Awana, and when you're in the older groups, third, fourth, fifth grade or whatever, there's also lessons in the books, and it was my turn to read the lesson, and I read the lesson in King James. it was, not written in King James, but I just read every word as though
it was.
And no one caught on. So,
and how many people you think watching the podcast right now know what Awana is?
More now than previously.
Well, what is it? What does it stand for? It's an acronym.
Approved workmen are not ashamed.
There you go. Approved workmen are not ashamed.
Is that in the Bible, Steve?
No.
Yes, it is.
No,
it is in the Bible.
2 times.
2 Timothy.
2 Timothy.
2 Corinthians.
2 Corinthians.
So the acronym is in the Bible. Check. Okay, we can move on. Acronyms are of the Spirit.
Just that one.
Just that one.
Just Awana's.
Okay. All right. How important is it for Christians to believe in creation? So you talked a little bit about creation, specifically evolution, and how it doesn't have to be in contradiction of the Bible. So
Yeah.
I think it's kind of a little bit asking a little bit more based on that, because you didn't have a ton of time to go into it.
Yeah. So here's the thing. We live in a time when we always have to preface things and give disclaimers, because people will often take offense at what you don't say.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of, just hearing what you do say. So let me take a second and do that.
Yeah.
Preface.
Were you afraid of that people were going to take what you said about creation and get all offended?
I wouldn't say afraid of it.
Okay. Yeah.
I recognize.
Were you concerned, or did you consider it?
So yes, I considered it.
Okay.
And I assumed it would happen.
Okay.
But it's just that's part of the game. So here's the preface and disclaimers, right?
Yeah.
I don't think evolution is an adequate explanation of the origin of the species, right? And I'm using that phraseology very intentionally. I think evolution does a bad job of explaining how we got to be where we are.
Yeah.
Do I believe that there are such things as microevolutions? Of course, but we have no evidence of it jumping. And I don't know if it's genus, species. I don't know, but all that stuff. We can see how ants evolve different things, right?
But dogs is a great case, because you can they breeded all kinds of different dogs in a very short period of time.
And cats would be the opposite. Where you can see the devolution.
They went down,
cats, right? From cats were always lions and tigers and those kinds of things.
And now we have ligers.
And then after the fall, we have house cats.
Yeah.
But we don't have any evidence of an ant becoming a beetle, right? Or the
links,
or a dog becoming a cheetah.
So the ones I'm more thinking of are single-celled organisms into something that's a complex organism.
I don't know anything about that stuff.
Or a fish coming out of the water and saying, I want to grow lungs.
That seems troubling to me.
Yeah. It seems troubling to me that.
Yeah. And I want to be careful, because I'm terrible at science, and I don't know anything about science, but here's where I stumble a lot is it seems to me that evolution is rooted in, the species advancing because you have an exception, right? Where you have a mutation. And the reality is, as we observe nature today, generally speaking, mutations die or are killed.
Yeah.
Right. The natural order of most animals, most creatures is if there's a mutation, they kill it. And instead of saying, "Oh, this one mutated, and now they're all going to eventually share the same mutation," that just doesn't seem to be the way it works.
Well, and then mutations. I don't actually know of any that are positive mutations. Mutations are usually
the X-Men.
Yeah, the X-Men. Yeah, so
white squirrels.
That always, I struggle with that too, as that being evidence that we've actually become a stronger thing, a better thing by mutation. Whereas most of the mutation I see, it's that's harmful. I don't know. So
yeah. So we're far afoot now. But all that to say, I don't think evolution is an adequate explanation of how we got here. What I said on Sunday was we have to understand that just logically thinking, evolution explains a process. Creation explains a beginning. And there's a huge difference between the two. You can't have a process without a beginning, and evolution makes no attempt to explain the beginning. They assume
Yeah.
They assume a starting point, but they have no explanation.
What do they call it? Like the pool, something with the pool where life started, a globulous pool.
Well,
I don't know what word they use it.
So it's
whatever that pool,
a
globulous. That's just a word I made up right now. I've heard the word where they talk about some type of pool where life started in evolution.
So you get into the problem of from where did it come?
Yeah.
And then you ask again, from where did that come? From, and that's one of the things. It doesn't offer a beginning where a creationist belief built upon the idea that God created everything. You can get to that endpoint. God, it came from God, and God was and always has been. And
so exactly. So if you trace it back, and let's give credit to physicists who think they have an explanation for a lot of this, right? They take it way back to there was this, what they call the Big Bang, right? And there's different talks about what exactly the Big Bang was or was not. But they don't even try to explain what banged, right? Or what caused it to bang or anything like that. However, if we go to the Bible, the very first thing the Bible tells us is that God said what? Let there be
light.
Right. So
bang.
So what if that light right was
the big thing that's puzzling to me is you break the laws of physics to get something out of nothing, right?
Well, they would argue
so you're saying
that the laws of physics changed.
Didn't apply at that point.
That in those early
that's a big stretch for me personally.
Well, that's fine, but in those early milliseconds, right, that the laws of physics were evolving into what they are, and everything eventually had to settle in and become what it is now.
But I feel like there's a lot of faith that has to go into even believing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you're trusting someone's thought based on some things that they observe.
So I talked 2 weeks ago about 3 miracles that you have to believe if you don't have God, right? You have to believe that something came from nothing. You have to believe that life came from non-life. And you have to believe that order came from chaos. And those are all miracles. They require the suspension of natural laws in order to happen, which is another reason why we say, at the beginning, what was there? And there's really only 2 options. You either had eternal nothingness or eternal somethingness, right? Because you had to have something eternal at the beginning that sets everything in motion. The law of cause and effect tells us that every effect has a cause, so there must be one original eternal cause. Was the original eternal cause nothing or something? And if you settle on something, now we're saying, okay, so now you believe in a God.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about who that is and what that is. So all that to say, I think Christians do need to believe in creation, right? I mean, however you get there, and I think there is room for Christians to honestly have debate and dialogue about how, what exactly was happening in Genesis 1. I think we do need to settle in Genesis 2 with the idea that God created a man and a woman at the beginning of all things, and that the man and the woman willingly chose to disobey God, and that's how sin entered the world, because that's really what gives us our framework for understanding everything about this world. So I do think we got to be there.
Yep, I agree.
So would you say something like all Christians need to believe that God created the world, but we can disagree with how he did it?
With how he did it up to the point of creating man and woman, I think.
Here's always been my issue is that, like you said, that the Bible is not a book on science, right? So we have how much text on all of creation? Not much, right?
2 chapters.
Yeah, so not a whole lot.
Right.
So it's not meant to be all inclusive, all extensive on how creation. Plus, is written in a very poetic way. So when we look at other texts, we look at the context of how they're written and the stylistic approach to it and all that. But for some reason, when we talk about creation, we don't want to pull that into it.
Yeah, but it is worth noting that in Genesis 1, there's some really helpful stuff for us there, right? Like we understand the whole purpose of man from Genesis chapter 1. We understand the orderliness of creation. If you read through the chapter, you see how many times God says that he created after their kind, which seems to be just a slap to Charles Darwin, right? Say, no, animals were created and reproduce after their kind. That's what Genesis 1 says.
So the chicken came before the egg?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
We just settled the most important question of all time.
Yes, we did.
All right. Are we done on that one?
If you all are done.
John is dead asleep.
John is asleep. Okay. Okay, why? This is a good ending one. Like, why does this matter? Why does it matter if the Bible is true or not? Like, why should we care?
Is that really one of our questions?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Why does it matter that the Bible is true? I think it matters because it's the best explanation that we have for reality. And if we can understand the world that we live in, then we can understand how we ought to live in the world, and we can understand the purpose of the world, which ultimately prepares us for the next world.
Yeah. So
Clip that.
Yeah, clip it. That was a good one. And if there is like fruit, I'll say, from following what the Bible says, that is also a proof. Like if you followed what the Bible said and your life was a total disaster, right, and nothing worked out, but if God really exists and he has our best interest, he wants us to prosper, if we follow what he says, then there would be actual proof of that, right? And I can speak personally of my life is way better because of following what the Bible says.
Correct. But I think it's important to note that when you say my life is better, what you're not saying is your life is lollipops and roses.
Right.
Right? Because
I don't think those two things go together.
Lollipops and roses?
Well, no, that your life your life is going, you're going to be a multimillionaire and everything's going to go your way. No, because that's not how life works, right?
Nor should it be.
Yeah.
Because pain is good, right? Pain alerts us to something being wrong. And so when we experience pain in our life, that doesn't mean our life is bad. That means that our life has this self-correcting mechanism to allow us to fix what's wrong and what's broken. So I think that your statement is spot on. And I think people need to understand, though, when you say your life is better, you're not saying everything is always rosy.
Yeah.
Did you guys see the tulips this morning?
Where? Oh, out there?
Walking in? Yeah. Tulips popped open this morning.
Oh.
Pretty exciting.
No, I looked at the ones out front, but I didn't see those ones over here.
Wait, that's the front?
The main entrance.
This
of the
is
church.
actually a really good question.
Yeah.
What is the front of our building? Which side?
He just called that.
Oh, I did.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying here.
Right.
That's the back side of our property.
That's the back side of our property.
But it's our main entrance.
But it's our main entrance.
Yeah, so this is funny. So our cabin,
bending my mind right now.
Our cabin up north is set up so there's two doors. There's a door that
that statement was clearly a Michigan thing where you said my cabin up north.
Right. Well, it's north of here.
Okay.
So the one door faces the road that comes in. So it's like a long 2-track that comes into the cabin, and then it kind of and you're there. So the one door faces that, and then there's a door on the side that's adjacent to that side.
Yeah.
And then the other part of the cabin faces out to the water, right? And growing up, we always called the side door the front door because that was by the water.
Yeah.
And what I always thought of as the front door, because you drive in and you go in, that should be the front door. So
was there a family disagreement?
Was always the back door. No, you don't mess with it. This is just, for generation upon generation, it shall be so.
Okay.
So that's the front door.
Yeah.
So when I went up there with my small group on a fishing trip, and I called what is the front door, they all kind of looked at me like, that's not the front door. Shut the front door.
Shut the front door. Okay. Well, it's good having you guys here, and thank you for a wonderful discussion.
Which is the front door?
Oh, the building?
Yeah.
Well, the front door is the main entrance. That has to be the front door. There is literally no door on the front of our building. So we don't
have a front door.
No, we don't. We don't have a door on the front of our building.
We have a metaphorical front door. It's called a website.
If you came in the front door, yeah, sure. If we built a front door in the church, you'd be actually entering behind the stage.
Right. But that's the front of the building.
Awesome that'd be like you show up to our church for the first time, you walk in the front door and you're on stage.
I remember in seminary reading about they actually did that to people. Like if you showed up late for church, you'd enter in through the choir loft. Like so everybody knew you showed up to church late.
I went to a church once that Marianne and I almost did that. We almost walked into the choir loft during the service because we didn't know where we were.
What would you do if you walked like you were just totally like you're, I don't know, texting or something? I'm sure you weren't texting back then, but if you like accidentally walked onto stage,
old man,
would you just turn around and leave, or would you
singing,
or would you sit down?
If you find yourself in the choir loft, start singing.
Up from the grave.
Why don't we sing that song on Easter? Why don't we
sing that song, John?
Well, this has been a great episode of The Gathering Greenhouse. We'll see you next week.
See you then.
I think that should be the end.
I think it should.